All right, folks, welcome back into another edition of the High School Huddle, your one-stop shop for everything and all things Section 5 sports. I'm AJ Fellman. He's Carl Jones. And Carl, the NFL draft is coming up soon. This is our last show before we take a little one-week break hiatus, but we had a lot of great action in Section 5 this past week, and spring sports season. Keep saying it. Keeps ramping up, Carl.
Yeah, last week I was fortunate enough to go out, catch a couple baseball games, softball games, expanding horizons a little bit outside of just lacrosse. Weather heating up, well, just for that weekend, I guess you can say, but it's here and there. I think tomorrow I'm seeing a little 80 on the horizon, so not consistent yet, but we're getting a little taste of it. But nonetheless, I'm excited, especially with these different sports popping in there, and we're gonna show them some love in this episode for sure.
Yeah, we have the weather going on quite the little roller coaster here. Up and down. I'm sure Eric Snidel is building those roller coaster graphics, those elevator graphics that always has popping in the forecast. So it's a good time. Spring is here. The allergy season is certainly here. Any day that I forget to take my allergy meds, it is not a fun day. So I think those out there who suffer from the seasonal allergies agree with me. But let's get right into it. We had some big games, some rivalry games, and some teams really making some statements in the past week. Carl, your team of the week.
Without further ado, we gave Schroeder so much love, so much just showering them with praise last week. So that means I got to get the team that beat them even more love. Shout out to the Thomas softball team for taking down the Lady Warriors last week. 93 whooping last Friday. I mean, it was a rivalry game, so it could go either way, but I didn't expect the score to get like that. I got there a little late. I believe it was a 4-3 game in the 5th or 6th when I arrived. And then the Titans took off from there. Emma Bello, solo shot right in front of me. Beautiful homer right there. Nice little celebration and all. And the Titans kind of took off from there. It was funny because Schroeder hit 3 home runs, but those were just the 3 runs that they got. So they weren't able to muster more offense outside of that. We gave them so much love on how their pitching was great. This team, they reloaded, and they're going to have a fantastic year, obviously. But the Titans didn't care. They don't care about none of that. Maybe we gave them bulletin board material. I don't know. But nonetheless, they went on to Schroeder's home field, got it done. They also, this past weekend, went up to Syracuse for a little tournament, split it up there, and then also came back and then took down Hilton, I believe, yesterday, 14-1. So this Thomas team, they're for real. They don't have to face Schroeder in sectional play this year, as we alluded to last week, with Schroeder bumping up to Class AA. So this might be a Titans team who can make some noise, not just here in Section 5, but in the rest of the state as well. Just want to give some love to Emma and Ella Bello, the sisters. Then Julia Maciag also did her thing this past week as well. They're going to get tested this week with Fairport and Brighton coming up. So those are some 2 tough tests for them. But they already took down Victor, who's also another tough team in AA. This Thomas team, if you didn't know before, they for real now. So shout out to the Titans.
Yeah, and we definitely didn't know for sure. Like you mentioned, I sent you there a little bit late. You were going around to some other games. You made a trip out to Avon, and I was following this. We had this game on our radar, Schroeder Thomas, and it was streaming on the Varsity Media Network. And we see that Thomas is in the lead, so I'm like, you know what? Well, if Carl gets there late, he can just get the comeback from Schroeder, big bag Schroeder taking down their rivals. We'll be good to go. And Thomas apparently didn't like that train of thought because they really took it to him. And, that is, obviously a really impressive win for Thomas. Schroeder's only loss on the season so far. And like you mentioned, they are not in Schroeder's bracket. They're at A1. So, Irondequoit's going to be a really tough team to take down. Irondequoit currently undefeated at 7-0. Marlena Cartagena in the circle for them, getting it done as she's done for the past couple of years. But other than that, you look at, the A1 standings right now. I mean, you got Brockport at 3-2. That's the only other team with a record above 500. You got Bishop Kearney at 3-3. So, it's early on. These records don't mean a whole lot, but Thomas is certainly a strong contender to go really far in the A1 brackets. And, if they can take it down Schroeder, it's going to be tough for any team to really match up with them.
And it's going to be tough, especially from our perspective, to know how they match up with the rest of the A1, because they play a ton of AA teams the rest of the way. Like, they do face Spencerport and Churchville Childline, but they play Henrietta, Lancaster out of that area, Hilton again. So they're not going to face Irondequoit in the regular season. So until they meet in sectional play, we will not know how those 2 teams match up. But I'm going to enjoy the ride, and I'm not going to worry about that until we have to cross that bridge.
I'm eyeing boys lacrosse for my team of the week. Another team that won a big rivalry matchup, arguably one of the biggest rivalries in Section 5, one of the biggest rivalries in all of New York State, maybe even the country. I've seen these things flown around. Canandaigua taking down Penn Yan in the war for the Or. Now with a 45-42 lead in the season series, they took them down 6-5. A really close, a really competitive game, as usually the case with these two teams. It was a nice return to a good game after last year. Penn Yan got shut out against Canandaigua. Penn Yan was a really young. They're still young this year, but they were a really young team last year, and Canandaigua going all the way to the state championship game with that defense. Not too surprising, I guess, with how the results shaped out, but. As I mentioned, they beat him 6-5. Jack Fayola getting it done as always in net. Sean Olvani and Braden Giuseppe with 2 goals apiece in that game. And Canandaigua did a really good job of withstanding some pressure that Penn Yan faced, thrust upon them. Canandaigua was kind of in cruise control early. Penn Yan got some goals, made it 4-2 at the half. Penn Yan scores the first 2 of the second half to make it 4-4. The second one coming right off of the faceoff. So really kind of blitzed them, Canandaigua, but the Braves did not blink. They scored right before the end of the third quarter. They scored early in the fourth to build up a 2-goal lead. Penn Yan got one more, but Canandaigua able to shut the door for the last 7 minutes of regulation time. Canandaigua had a tough defensive series for the last minute or so. That they shut down Penn Yan, minute 30 seconds-ish to go. So a great win by Canandaigua, who are now just one of 2 undefeated teams on the Section 5 season so far this season, them and HFL. You also have to note, of course, Victor and Pittsford, both undefeated in Section 5 play. They both lost to some really good out of the area teams. But Canandaigua, they lost a fair amount from that championship team, Section 5 championship team last year. But they bring back a decent amount. They're 7-0 on the season. That defense is still leading the way for them. They've only allowed 35 goals this entire season. That's 5 goals a game for your math majors at home. And Canandaigua, think about this. They're undefeated on the season, 7-0. They've only scored double digits twice this year. So we talk a lot about styles make fights. They're getting it done. Doing it offensively. Sean Olvani, 15 goals on the season. Drew Willamy, you'll know him from the football field, 14 goals, and Giuseppe with 10 on the season. And I want to highlight one more thing. Canandaigua getting it done with these low-scoring games. They've beaten Hilton in overtime. They've beaten Spencerport by 2, a really good Spencerport team this year. Irondequoit, a rematch of last year's Section 5 championship game, beat him 7-6. Beat Penn Yan by 1, Brighton by 1. They're outscoring their opponents 15-6 in the fourth quarter. So, they're getting it done in crunch time. They're winning these close games when it matters most.
And that's going to prepare you for sectional play. Sometimes when you dominate, you see these records, this team is 19-1 or 18-2. Like, how are they going to respond when they get tested in second postseason play? Well, Canandaigua plays their entire regular season schedule that way. So they'll be fine in that regard. And also, you alluded to it a little bit. I just want to give some love to Drew Willamy and Sean Olvani, the 2 football players. I'll never forget that amazing throw that Willamy, Olvani dunking on my man. It was part of our crazy Section 5 You Got Lost football frenzy. I'm happy to see those 2 boys are fantastic athletes, not just in the football field, lacrosse as well. So that was really dope to see that they're doing a great job on that with the sticks as well.
Yeah, and the game to watch, of course, will be on May 8th when Victor is the host of that game. Victor versus Canandaigua. So potentially a Section 5 championship preview. There's some teams that are going to have a lot to say about that. Irondequoit for one, some of the other teams I mentioned, but that'll be one to watch as Canandaigua undefeated on the Section 5 schedule so far this year, which brings us to Carl's under the radar team, which we might be rebranding a little bit this segment here. I want to go with the Eyes on You segment, aka a team that if Carl Jones were to hear about his accomplishments, he's going to give you the Von Miller eyes, the Eyes on You. So Carl, who got your eyes on?
Speaking of undefeated teams in Section 5 on the record period, how about the HFL boys? 6-0 on the year, getting it done down there in Class C. Just to highlight a couple of their accomplishments. B. Schroeder, 11-10, so going up with the big boys, getting that done. 7-4 over East Aurora. I believe that's a team out in AJ's neck of the woods in Buffalo area. And just want to highlight a couple of other guys. My man, Drew Angelo. Shout out to the Orange. He's committed to the Orangemen. He's a junior right now. the best guy in Section 5 right now in terms of face-off. So that's one advantage that HFL has every single time they step on the field. 89% of the face-offs he's winning. So HFL has that many more possessions just because Drew Angelo is out there. That's the best in Section 5. 93 face-off wins so far this year. Once again, tops in Section 5. And then speaking of elite players, Chase Perryman, who's been doing his thing since, I believe, 9th grade for the Cougars. He's 5th in Section 5 with 19 goals, and then also 4th with 30 points on the year. This is a young team where the seniors aren't accumulating a ton of stats. A couple of sophomores who are doing some things. Matthew Bracy, and then also Quentin Cale-Born, 2 sophomores also over 15 points on the year so far this year. HFL, they won a sectional title back in 2021. Took a step back last year with a 10-9 record. Looked like they're back to how they want to do things, switching things up a little bit. I haven't seen the Cougars, I believe, yet since I've been in the Rochester area. So it'll be kind of cool to see if they can finally turn things around and get a sectional title while I'm here in the area.
Yeah, and HFL gonna have a really tough test next week against Canandaigua. Obviously, we just talked about them a bunch. They've got Livonia Avon twice in the next 2 or 3 weeks or so. Another team is gonna have a lot to say about who takes home the Section 5 Class C championship. So HFL, like you mentioned, those face-off percentages. You're going to Syracuse, you're winning that many draws, face-offs. It's the funny thing about lacrosse where if you score the goal, you can get the ball right back. Doesn't happen in a lot of sports. Obviously, hockey, there's a face-off, but it's different. But, lacrosse, if you can get a good face-off guy, that could be it.
Yo, good old make it, take it, like they say in basketball. That's what HFL is playing every single time they get out there.
Exactly. My eyes on you team. I'm going to the softball diamond. The Mendon Vikings, the Mendon softball team, 5-2 on the season, undefeated in Section 5 play so far this season. And as we mentioned before, when we were talking about Thomas softball, we were hunting out to Avon. Jessie Cry got some really great strikeout numbers. She got 20 strikeouts last week, made it into our Section 5 best segment. Well, Lily Goldberg did the same exact thing for the Mendon Vikings. 20 strikeouts in a 4-0 shutout win over HFL. Only a one-hitter. For those at home who aren't the best math majors and might not know about how many strikeouts there are available in the game, they play 7 innings. So you get a chance to get 21 strikeouts. She got 20 strikeouts for all of her outs. There could be a drop third strike or whatever, but generally, she got 20 of her 21 outs based off of the strikeout. And she's been getting it done all season long in the circle for them. She had 11 strikeouts against Canandaigua in a 2-1 win, only 4 hits. She had 13 strikeouts in a sectional championship game rematch against Sutherland with a 3-2 win, only had 2 hits allowed. 15 Ks against Gates Chili, 3 hits allowed. And then 10 strikeouts against Eastridge, also getting it done in the batter's box. She had the game-winning RBI against Canandaigua on 4/14, April 14th. She also had a 2-run homer against Sutherland, which tied it up in that rivalry game. So Lily Goldberg getting it done. Mendon softball getting it done. They've got their eyes on trying to win another sectional championship game after last year's heartbreak. I believe it was a shutout loss in that sectional championship game to Sutherland. So the Mendon Vikings, watch out. They're good this year.
Lily Goldberg, we need to do a segment every week. Who can get to 20 Ks? Because honestly, this was a rare occurrence we thought last week, and apparently every girl in Section 5 was like, no, it's my turn. Who want to get 21? Who wants to strike out every batter in Section? Can we have that happen? I mean, it's cool when I air 1 week on Section 5 Best. We're like, oh my gosh, 20 Ks, holy cow. But I can't do it every single week. So I'm really excited to kind of see how that if that becomes a weekly thing at this point in the area.
Yeah, I feel like in the basketball season, we have weeks on end where it's 1,000-point scores. I think literally one night I made my entire Section 5 best 1,000-point scores. We might have to make it the 20K club. So shout out to everybody getting it done in the circle. Lily Goldberg, watch out, where we might have to get out there for a little segment sometime soon. We've got some great games coming up on the schedule. We won't have a chance to talk about them next week because we'll be out doing some draft coverage in Buffalo. But Carl, your game of the week, a game you've got your eyes on coming up soon.
Irondequoit Hilton boys lacrosse. You take a quick look at it. Why do you care? Irondequoit's 2-4, Hilton's 5-2. let me break down the records a little bit for you. Irondequoit, their 4 losses this year, a 7-6 loss to Canandaigua, once again an undefeated team here. An 8-6 loss, 8-6 loss to Pittsburgh, really darn good team in Class A. 7-6 loss to Brighton, and then they lost 11-10 to Penfield in OT. They have 4 losses by a combined, I'm doing quick math. Is this 5 points? That is crazy. That's absurd. This Irondequoit team, I know they lost a fair amount of guys off of last year's team, but they still brought some guys back. I know they're heartbreaking right now. I know they're trying to get over the hump and finally, close some games out. And maybe they can do it against Hilton, who's 5-2 on the year. They did have a big loss to Pittsburgh early on, but they have a 9-8 loss to Canandaigua in OT, who we also know is a fantastic ball club. Which team is Hilton for real, or can Irondequoit get over the hump? I would love to see the results of that. That game will be on Saturday at Irondequoit this Saturday, I believe, if I got that right. At Irondequoit, yes. There we go.
Yeah, like you mentioned, got whooped up by Pittsburgh, but Hilton's had some good results lately. And then in Class B, Irondequoit's kind of this team where, last year they were a fun little story. They beat up on a lot of teams in the regular season, proved themselves in the playoffs by taking down Thomas, gave Canandaigua a decent fight in the championship game. But once again, I think Irondequoit's in this corner where, people look at them, it's Irondequoit. They were really good before, but they haven't been that good in a while. Can they hang with Victor? Can they hang with Canandaigua? Can they beat those teams? They've shown that they can hang with them, but can they beat them? That'll be another good test on Irondequoit's path to proving themselves. I'm going to the baseball diamond for my game of the week. Schroeder versus McQuaid. 2 really good teams. McQuaid, their first test against Section 5 play this season. They're actually only going to play 6 games against Section 5 teams this year as they, travel away, go to Syracuse area, Buffalo area, all that good stuff that they like to do. And then Schroeder is off to a really good start so far as well, 5-2 on the season. They took down Thomas, got some revenge for the softball ladies. They handed Thomas their only loss of the season. They've also beaten a really good Athena team. They split against Fairport. They split against Fresh Henrietta. So 2 teams that are both going to have a lot to say about the Section 5 playoffs going forward. Both teams in Class AA. McQuaid still our favorites going up, but you've also got Victor, Fairport, Hilton. Schroeder is in this mix. So the first real test for McQuaid on their Section 5 schedule. We'll see how they fare against some of these local teams coming up. That game is on Friday coming up.
I know those teams who get to face McQuaid, who doesn't really come around too often. You get licking your chops a little bit. Like, all right, y'all going around the state, country a little bit. We'll come back home to Section 5 and we'll show you how it gets done. I know teams in the area are excited when they see the Knights on their schedule and get to prove themselves a little bit when they get to go against McQuaid.
Yeah, so that should be a great one. We'll probably get a chance to talk about in 2 weeks' time because, as we mentioned, the NFL draft is coming up. Both of us are going out to Orchard Park to cover this. We're not going down to Kansas City. And Carl, real quick, we're going to give the people a teaser. I'm going to put you on the spot here. One player where the first round pick, if the Bills get this guy, Bills fans are going to be really excited to get him. A reasonable player.
Okay, so if Bills fans want to be excited, I got to go offense because no one cares about them, right? Bills fans probably won't want to run it back. So we'll say Jordan Addison, the USC guy. If he drops to 27, I think Bills fans will be really, really excited if a former best receiver in the country award winner drops to Orchard Park and become one of Josh Allen's little toys to play with. That's why I'll get Bills fans excited for it.
Yeah, lot to be said about Gabe Davis, things like that. So we'll see what happens. I was out there on Tuesday when it was supposed to be the pre-draft press conference, but it turned into the DeMar Hamlin is now cleared to play football. So things got changed up real quick on that day. But they got a lot of different ways they can go. They can go linebacker. I know everybody likes Jack Campbell. Do we want to go defense? Do they have the linebacker on the roster? We'll find out and see. But as we mentioned, we'll be back in 2 weeks' time, back when the calendar months turns to May. And after that, we might be dropping out for a little bit for the PGA Championship. But we'll be back in 2 weeks' time, bringing you all your Section 5 coverage. Once again, you can find us on RochesterFirst.com. You can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe, rate, like, comment, all those good stuff. For Carl Jones, I'm AJ Feldman. It is time to break the huddle. We will see you in 2 weeks' time.